Hey guys, this is Sam with Ironclad Property Management. I wanted to make you aware of some really crazy potential laws that are coming down from committees that could be voted on this legislative session, 2025. There's a lot of them, guys. There's like 9 pages of them here, and I want to kind of get you up to speed on some of the ones that are most worrying for me. So this SB 1211, we think we need to monitor this one. Ultimately, it's about an act permitting the use of non-attorney representation of a tenant in a housing mediation matter. The concern here is that Connecticut is strongly pushing tenant unions. And so if you can have a non-attorney representative, we're going to have tenant union people at every courthouse asking people that are being evicted when they want to do mediation, would you like us to talk with you? And then they're going to fight for those tenants very significantly and then try to encourage those tenants to start additional tenant unions. So allowing non-attorney representation could very likely cause tenant unions to spread like crazy throughout the state. So that was one where we're monitoring currently because could have very big ramifications. This one we're supporting. This is a really, really great one that Representative Butler is putting into effect. It's an act concerning the eviction process. Many of us know that when a tenant has an issue with non-payment of rent and we start eviction proceedings on them, the first thing that they're doing is they're saying, I'm not paying rent because the fact that my issue has bed bugs, my property has any number of things, I don't have enough heat. And so in this situation, we would say in that the tenant would then have to put the rent into escrow with the courthouse. We know that so often the tenants are making excuses because they don't have the money, which can delay the process. So this one is to say either put the money into escrow or we're going to take this to an expedited court hearing. We know that about 90% of evictions in the state are due to non-payment. And so this could hopefully speed up the process, which would be great for us. There's a whole bunch of them about no fault evictions or just cause evictions. And so those are going to be pushed really, really hard. The progressive socialist has an agenda that they think housing is a human right. And they have a mantra of housing for all. And so they really are trying to prevent and make it very difficult for owners to owners that rent property to be able to evict tenants. So just cause evictions, no fault evictions, those are going to be going on really, really soon. They're really trying to push this agenda hard. One of the things that I know from an experience is when COVID was going on, we had essentially just cause evictions where you could only evict for extreme nuisance. And I know that what I found was that we couldn't get a tenant out, and then that tenant got uh, even worse. Her kids were shooting windows out with BB guns, leaving trash all over the yard, and we couldn't do anything about it. The tenants asked me, Sam, could you help us? We need help. And the only thing I could say was to talk to their elected officials. So just cause evictions only hurt great tenants. They don't hurt the bad tenants that are the ones we want to evict. Owners, landlords, housing providers, they're not looking to get people out. They're looking to get bad tenants out. So we're trying to go against the just cause eviction. Let me see what other ones. An act prohibiting of eviction of a residential for non-payment of rent if the landlord's online rental payment system prevents such payment of rent. This one's also bad. I know that with me being a property manager, we frequently have situations where a tenant's rent payment bounces, but it takes 5 days for us to be notified that the payment bounced. And so if they say that you can't evict if you take away the ability to provide them with online payments, that can be a very hard problem because they can just say 5 days. I know it's going to bounce. I'm going to put it again in 5 days. I'm just going to keep putting it in 5 days, and then you can never evict them. I've seen that happen way too many times in my property management company. Again, an act prohibiting eviction for lapse of time of certain tenants, an act expanding the protection of just cause evictions. You can see just in this first section, there's 3 different bills all surrounding evictions and making it harder for us as housing providers to be able to evict in the state. This one's we're in support of. So we have some that we're trying to support about squatters and about removing unauthorized individuals. Those are all in support of. We're hoping that some of these can come through. Again, an act concerning summary process evictions of protected tenants. Again, it's making it harder for us to be able to evict tenants, giving away our ability to actually have the property rights that we all want and deserve. Another one is making it harder for evictions with respect to nuisance due to smoke from odor or of cannabis. So again, they're trying to make it harder for us to evict and what we define as nuisance. Then we have some other ones with respect to possessions. There's some that we're in support of. Currently, as landlords, we have to not only pay to box and to transport all of the goods to a location for storage. Currently, it's the town's responsibility to pay for the storage of that tenant's supplies. So we're trying to prevent them from making it as the owner's responsibility to pay for storage for tenants. And so these are some that we're in support of. Continuing down, and this is from Senator Sampson, which is a one that we're definitely going to support, an act concerning a landlord's ability to review the criminal history record of a prospective tenant. We want to be able to have good data so that we don't have to put pedophiles, we don't have to put felons in properties when we have kids. In those locations. This one's a scary one, an act prohibiting a housing provider from considering a prospective tenant's felony conviction record after a certain time. These are felonies, guys. These are not misdemeanors. These are serious issues that these people have. We deserve the right to be able to utilize this information to make decisions on whether or not we want to accept a tenant. Again, an act requiring that certain eviction records be sealed, again, making it harder for us to be able to use background checks. This one is an act requiring bipartisan membership of fair rent commissions. It's been really one-sided if you've ever had to go to a fair rent commission hearing. And so Senator Rob Sampson's trying to support that for us. This one, an act requiring each municipality establish a fair rent commission. So small municipalities don't have to have it yet, but they're trying to make it so every single one, all 169 towns have to have one. Just adding undue bureaucracy into our towns that's not needed. So, guys, I'm going through pages here. There's a lot to discuss. This one's an act removing certain notice provisions concerning repeat blight violations. So we just got a lot going on. Leases and terms, an act prohibiting smoking in non-owner occupied apartment buildings. So we're hoping to do that because we want to enhance and improve the health of residents of non-owner occupied apartment buildings. So some people are talking about not being able to evict for smoking, and now we have ones that are trying to prevent smoking. It's kind of all over the place. These guys are not talking to each other at all. That's why we have 9 pages of this going on. Here's one, an act requiring a mold inspection of rental housing units prior to leasing such units to a tenant. So every single time you would be responsible to get a mold certificate, a mold inspection to say that it's good between every single tenant. This is just adding cost without any benefit to our tenants, and they question why our rents keep going up. Here's a good one, an act prohibiting a landlord from demanding a security deposit in excess of 1 month's rent from any tenant. Since evictions are so hard, we personally use the 2-month security as a means to judge whether or not a person is financially able to make the rent and whether or not we were going to give them a risk. If we now go down to 1 month's rent from any tenant, it's going to cause us to potentially have to reject even more tenants than we already are rejecting. And so we want to oppose that. We need 2 months security so we have a mechanism to be able to approve and deny suspect tenants. This one, an act requiring notification of flood hazards to potential tenants or purchasers of real property. Again, this is going to make it harder for us to rent certain properties in flood zones because some people might think that they don't want to live in a flood zone. They can do their own research. We shouldn't have to notify them of that information. Rent caps, an act establishing a cap for annual rent increases in mobile manufactured home parks. They're trying to do this in regular ones as well. An act establishing a maximum annual rental price increase for residential leases and permitting tenants to file a complaint alleging violations of such maximum annual increase. Again, we already have a mechanism here, which is the Fair Rent Commission, and they're already trying to now add rent control into this as well. Some of these were also with respect to when you sell a property, that they're saying if you sell a property, that new owner can't raise the rent more than 10% in the first year. That's going to make it so that the rent price or the purchase prices have to go down because you can't actually get the rents that you expect the first year. We've got ones with respect to short-term rentals as well, guys. This one is an act requiring short-term rentals to register in a statewide registry and to pay a tax on units that are not owner-occupied. Again, this is just going to make it really hard for short-term rentals to be able to be profitable because you've got to pay a tax on any unit that's not owner-occupied. Here's another one, an act concerning the regulation and taxation of short-term rental properties and the dedication of a portion of the room occupancy tax from such rentals. People are trying to make more money on the backs of housing providers. Look at, I'm going another page. CHRO and discrimination, an act concerning the authority of the Attorney General to initiate legal actions in response to alleged discriminatory housing practices. Guys, we're being attacked here. Got a couple other ones that we're in support of. This one is about being able to deny coverage to property owners based on the breed of a tenant's dog. That one, like, I don't know why people need emotional support pit bull. Like, doesn't make sense to me, guys. Here's some other ones: regulations, fines, and penalties. An act establishing a task force to study municipal penalties for landlords for health and safety. Again, this is one we're hoping for because we want to understand how penalties are actually affecting landlords. I'm going on another page, guys. An act requiring a landlord to reimburse a tenant for spoiled food or medicine under certain conditions. We already have a situation where a refrigerator breaks and we have to pay $1,000 to replace it, and now we have to pay for spoiled food. Like, what are they going to do? Say that I had caviar and I had these really expensive meds, and that you're going to have to pay thousands of dollars for their food? Again, this one's really scary too, guys. An act concerning certain protections for group and family childcare homes. So in this case, you'd have to allow people that want to have a childcare home in your property to be able to do that by right. Which means that, if ultimately that child gets sick and they check the lead levels in the paint, or if there's paint that's flaking, you can be held responsible for it, even though you're not receiving any benefit from the group and family childcare home. Here's another one: an act concerning a statewide building code consisting of more stringent energy efficiency requirements, so that you actually would have to upgrade your and do energy efficiency changes. Like, it's not going to benefit us as housing providers in any way, shape, or form. We need to oppose this one as well. This one, an act establishing a tenant opportunity purchase program. So if you have a property that's being rented, the tenant gets the opportunity to buy the property for the first 6 months. We've seen what happens in Washington, D.C. and other places. This is what ends up happening: is the tenant extorts the owner for money because of the fact that they're selling the property. Guys, this is a terrible law. Here's another one: an act concerning consumer protection for non-consensual towing on private property. They're saying in this one that you have to give the person 24 hours notice that you're going to tow their property before you do it, right? And if they're parking in someone else's spot, you can't tow them, and they're illegally doing that. You're going to have all these issues where people are towing or are parking wherever they see fit. Guys, I'm not even done yet. We've got more of these. An act concerning non-residential landlord registration, increased penalties for repeat building and fire code violations. Again, adding more burden to us as housing providers. An act concerning mold remediation. And then we like some of these affordable housing ones because we're trying to provide grants to landlords to create affordable housing. That's a lot of the issue. We need more housing. Um, an act concerning incentives for the replacement of residential electric resistant heating systems. I'm not that sure about that one. And then this is the last one: an act increasing funding for affordable housing development. We love those because we want more affordable housing. Guys, this got me really, really scared. And so I wanted to share this with you because I recognize that if we don't do something now, we're going to have fair rent commission. We're going to have just cause evictions. We're going to be paying off tenants when we want to sell a property. We're not going to be able to raise the rents that we need to do this. We're going to have to pay for mold inspections beforehand. We're going to have to do lead remediations. None of this is helping provide a benefit to the tenant. It's just causing a cost to us, and it's just going to make our housing prices go up and our expenses go up further. So if you have any questions about this, don't hesitate to reach out to me. We're forming a number of areas where we're meeting. We can talk to you about how to speak to your elected officials, how to put in written information and written testimony and verbal testimony, so that we can talk to our elected officials and let them know that these are terrible laws and we don't want this to go through because it's going to hurt us. And that's not something that we are willing to elect you again for if you're not willing to support us. Hope this was helpful, guys. Like, there's a lot of craziness going on right now. It's February, and these things are going to be coming out of commission soon. So we really need everyone's help. Thank you.